Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to Versus Series, where a member of my team, Acebreakers, faces off against a well-known up-and-coming pro player. For this week, we have Icegirl from Team Acebreakers facing off against Raven from Team Infused. Now, this episode is very late. I'm aware of this. There's a bunch of reasons, but they're too long to care about, so I'm not going to bother. However, I do have some good news, which is Acebreakers has a lot of new players. The list is quite extensive, actually. I will briefly try and list off the new players here because there are tons of them. But basically, what happened was Second Wind, which some of you may know, they ran tournaments in the past, and they're a pro team that floats around. Well, on the wind, if you will. They are now merged with Acebreakers EU. So the EU portion of Acebreakers is basically Second Wind at this point. Haven't really come up with a proper name yet, but so that was 8 players or so joining in, and the other extra player was Waxor, who joined basically a week ago at this point. So it's resulted in a Acebreakers EU team that is quite extensive. It's about 10 players now, which is quite insane, and also means that I'll be able to set up other things with other EU teams, so expect more out of that coming in the future. But anyway, without further ado, let's get on to the first game of the series. So, we see Icegirl opening up with the Zoo by the sounds of it, or by the looks of it, I guess. We did miss the first turn, however, turn 1 Leopard Gnome, turn 2 Echoing Ooze leaves me to believe that this is a Sea Giant deck, at least 1 Sea Giant, possibly 2, as we just try and get Raven's thing on screen, as he did have spectating disabled for the first game. So yeah, have to get that fixed, but yeah, he did have spectating disabled, so we had to get that fixed manually. Because if you have spectating disabled, then you're basically whoever is watching the games can't spectate you, and they can't see what's in your hand. But yeah, so we just get a clear view on that. There's a Knife Juggler, there is a Shredder, an Equality. This turn is pretty awkward though. I think you just, yeah, Hero Power is pretty much the only playable thing there. I think Nerubian Egg and then use one of the 1-2s to kill the 1-1 seems pretty obvious here. As far as positioning goes, I think I would have liked to see the Nerubian Egg in between the 1-2s. Simply because it gives you Defender of Argus options. But positioning is often overrated. But there is a Defender of Argus in hand, so it's something to keep a note of. Now, this turn is particularly difficult because how do you trade this? I think you want to use the Dark Iron on the egg. You want to pop that egg if you can. I would pop the egg and the 1-1 and then trade in the other way around. I don't know if I agree with this. And it's a Vitality Totem. Getting pretty badly punished there. I think you go Defender of Argus here now. You could go Dark Iron, but I think I prefer Defender of Argus, kill the Vitality Totem. You could also go tap into Abusive, but I do think you want to use one of the Defenders here. Especially considering there are 2 Defenders in hand. She does end up going for the Dark Iron. Yeah, as I said, I do think the Defender is slightly better, but Dark Iron, it is weak to Truce Over, and this was a opportune moment for a Truce Over turn. So, a little bit weak to the Truce Over there. So I think at this point what you do is you play Defender of Argus and then Time Rewinder it, I think. Do you Time Rewinder it? That's actually a good point here, is do you Time Rewinder it? I think it's okay to, because it means you can disguise the fact that you have 2. But that's a difficult decision. I would say Time Rewindering there I think is okay. You see the mighty Sludge Belcher come down here. The bane of all decks with aggro in their deck description. 7 health and taunt, really hard to get rid of. The Doom Guard, however, going to be very handy here. So I think what you do here is play the Abusive Sergeant on the egg, and then play the Doom Guard, see what it discards, and you can use the Doom Guard to kill the first half of the Sludge Belcher, and then use the buffed egg to kill the second half of the Sludge Belcher. Very efficiently taking out the Sludge Belcher without really losing that much in terms of tempo or damage. That's how powerful Doom Guard is in these kind of swingy turns. Now, the follow-ups coming up from this Paladin are going to be interesting because there is a turn 8 Tyrion. The question is, how do you play this turn? Because there is an equality in hand right now. And there's also a lay on hands. So if you can get later on into the game, you're going to do quite well here. I think the play is probably equality, knife juggler, and then hero power. Harrison Jones is also okay. The problem is that where's this equality going? That's the real thing here. I think you want to get... Actually, no, you have a mini-bot. You don't have to hero power. That's me being dumb. But yeah, you can go equality, knife juggler, mini-bot. I don't really like playing out just a juggler here. I think, given that, yeah, he's going to go for just the hero power here. I don't really like this. I think going for the risky play on getting that 2-1 is not really worth it. Whereas, if you had equality, there would only be one bad hit on the board, which is the Rubian Egg. But yeah, just some banter going back and forth through the emote system. I think we're going to see a tap here, see what you get. Even if you tap, you can play everything in your hand, so there's no reason not to. Always remember, tap first. It is the most common mistake ever when it comes to Warlock in general, and especially Zoo. Now, Flame Imp into Defender of Argus is the obvious play here. The question is, where do these go? I think what you do is you can play the Flame Imp, and then Defender of Argus, the Egg, and the Flame Imp, and then use the Egg and the 2-1 to clear some of his board out, and then hit him in the face with the Doom Guard. I think that's the correct way here. And yeah, keeping this egg alive is good because it encourages your opponent to waste some removal on it, and it makes it less vulnerable to, well, True Silver. But at this point, it's pretty difficult. I mean, there is an equality here, but the equality doesn't do that much, realistically. I mean, you can go equality muster, take out two things, or you can just play Tyrion and hope for the best. I think playing Tyrion here is about as good as playing Quality and Removing, but then you end up with a 5 attack weapon at the end of the turn. So I do think going for the Tyrion here is in fact the correct play. But this is really brutal. You need a Consecration if you want to get out of the situation. Attacking the egg. Does this actually do anything? I think well, attacking the Flame Up doesn't do anything either. Actually, by the looks of it, if there's no attack buff, which is what would be needed to get through anyway, this requires the same amount of things to attack. Sea Giant! Oh, slight mistake there. Could have played Harvest Golem to reduce the cost of the Sea Giant by 1 and then play the Sea Giant. So, slightly mana inefficient there. Although at this point it really doesn't matter. This is just getting slaughtered. I think you use the Doom Guard and... Actually, what do you use to trade in here? I think you use the Doom Guard and the 4/4. Or even the Flame Imp? I actually don't know what was the correct trade there. Yeah, I think this one's correct, actually. Yeah, you get the 1 extra damage in. The question is like taunt versus damage, but you get the 1 extra damage in, and you also put him into lethal from the Sea Giant attack, so I think that was in fact the correct play. Now, the top deck there was a Piloted Shredder, which does absolutely nothing. Now, there is a method of living here, which is Equality. Equality will save the Paladin, but it does mean that he's dead to an awful lot at this point. Any attack buff, any Doom Guard, just anything. But can definitely go for the Equality, trade the 2/2 into the 8/8, kill the 5/4, play the Shredder, and then hope you can live one more turn for the Lay on Hands. That's pretty much the only way you can live here. I mean, Lay on Hands would also do the same thing, but you'd end up with almost... Actually, would it be exactly the same amount of life at the end? Yeah, you'd end up with the same amount of life in the end, and the difference is that there's still a giant on the board, so this is definitely the correct play. Knife Juggler. Are we going to see some juggles? Some juggles for lethal. Let's see some juggles for Implosion. There's going to be some juggling. Let's see how this juggling goes. So there needs to be 3 triggers hitting the face. Oh, Implosion going on the Shredder. I think I would have imploded the 1-1 there. Alright, let's... Now, actually, that's lethal. Because the Haunted Creeper's Death Rattle triggers first. No RNG required. As Icegirl takes the first game with the Trolley Lorker Cho at the end there. But anyway, so that game really did come down to that last top deck that often does against Zoo, because often they just have problems finishing you off in that one turn. One more turn would have resulted in a Lay on Hands, and I think that may have been enough time to stabilize for the Paladin. So that was an extremely, extremely close game. But anyway, moving on to game 2, with Icegirl leading the series 1-0. Keep in mind that on Versus Series, we play all 3 games, no matter what the result of the second one is. But anyway, opening hand-wise, against a Druid, I think that's a keepable hand, going first. Like, the Nerubian Egg is not fantastic here because there's no enablers. However, the 1 and 3 play are about as good as they can get. Flame Imp is the best one you can open with, unless you have Undertaker into double Death Rattle or something, which actually there would have been. So Undertaker would have been stronger here. But it doesn't actually matter what that 1-drop was, because there's 2 Wraths. Not 1, but 2 Wraths. There's also a Zombie Chow, an Ascension, and a Mind Control tech. There is a Mind Control tech. It has been cited. There's a second Mind Control tech. Wow, that could get really important. MC Tech is one of the best cards you can possibly have against Zoo. Even Hunter can manage on a few minions, but Zoo flood the board. They really do. It's quite hard to play around MC Tech as Zoo, not to mention you don't expect it. MC Tech's pretty powerful right now, but not many people are playing it, so you really don't expect it. So yeah, you're just going to Wrath here, and then use the 2-3 to finish off the 2-1. So this game, just from this point of view, looks like it's going to be going in Raven's favor. But we shall see. Yeah, going for the life tap. Second Implosion, so yeah, life tap into 2 1-drops. Interesting. Okay. Saving the 1-1s. Sorry, not 1-1s. Saving the 2-1s. That's an Undertaker. Undertaker, and then Guy. Oh, slight mistake there. Should have tapped first. But yeah, going for the 2 Death Rattles and the tap. Now, let's see what this Mind Control tech gets, because there is a 50-50 chance of getting something good here. Actually, no, there is a 1 in 4 chance of getting something good here. Wow! Actually got the Undertaker. That's insane. The egg would have been almost useless, and the 2-1s wouldn't exactly have been useful. So that is quite important. That really is important. Ooh, a Sea Giant. Now, you can Implosion, and if this hits 4, the Sea Giant is getting massively reduced in cost. Wow, the RNG is really swinging both ways right now. That is a... That's crazy. That just... MC Tech stole the Undertaker, and then the Implosion just killed it. That was an absolutely crazy set of turns. Let's see how this game goes. There is a Ysera in the hand of the Druid here. Ysera is traditionally extraordinarily slow. Second MC Tech comes down, absolutely brutal, but only another 1-1. But a 1-1 is pretty good given the situation. Wait a second. Are we actually going to see a 0 mana Sea Giant? Is this real? I think we're going to see a 0 mana Sea Giant. I have not seen a 0 mana Sea Giant before. We actually may get to the mythical number of 12 minions on board. Count them, 12. So yeah, you implosion the 4/6 here, see what you hit. 3, that's fine. And we are going to see a 0 mana Sea Giant that is going to get BGH'd. So this 0 mana Sea Giant is getting big game huntered. But the egg is coming out to play as well. So this is pretty stabilized for both sides. Now, I don't think you actually use any of the switches here. I think you tap. I think tap is better than freezing or reversal. Interesting, going for the coolant. But if you go for the coolant, you want to use you want to be mana efficient. So, we'll see how that turns out. Ancient Allure the top deck here. I think you just hero power the 1/1, use the 1/1 to kill the 2/1, and then big game hunter the 8/8. You want to play the Ancient Allure, but you've got time and not exactly being pressured. So the BGH is going to be really handy here. Now, this reversing switch may actually do some serious work. That is an interesting turn, to say the least. I think you tap here first. You definitely tap. Wait, no, you can't tap. That's 7 mana this play. So you go Echoing Ooze. Do you even play the Undertaker? I don't know. I think you go Echoing Ooze, Defender of Argus. Yeah, you do play the Undertaker. And then you go Defender of Argus, attack the 3/1, and then reversal switch your Nerubian. That leaves you with a pretty crazy board. I mean, it doesn't actually matter how you order the reversing switch and the Defender. Or even the attack. Like, that turn really didn't matter the way you played it. That is a pretty substantial board. And that's a swipe for the... Is that full board clear? That is a full board clear. You just swipe one of the 2/3, and then that's a full board clear. That is literally the best card in the entire deck to top deck there. That could be game breaking. I mean, the Zoo does have the advantage of top decking too every single turn, but then the Druid has Ancient Allure and Ysera. But yeah, that's a full board clear, and it gets to keep a 3/3 on the board. Alright, so let's see what these next couple top decks bring. Wow, no discard Doomguard. Alright, play the Doomguard, tap, see what you get. The no discard Doomguard. That is crucial. Yeah, you played the Abusive Hero, and I think you just hit the face. This game is, I mean, combo is almost lethal at this point, but you can't really play around it. Cenarius, that is absolutely brutal. That's pretty brutal there. It's hard to deal with that. Knife Juggler, so you have to tap, even though you're getting lower than you'd like. Ooh, Sea Giant. That is important right now. Sea Giant is probably the single best card in the deck right now. And for anyone's like, yeah, double Doomguard, double Sea Giant, that's why she's still in this game. To be fair, this game has gone on for quite a while. This is turn 10. So half the deck has been seen, and I think this game is going to go much longer than this. No combo in sight. I don't even know if there is combo in this deck. Yeah, I don't think there is combo in this deck, just period. Because there's Ysera, there's Cenarius, Sengens. I think this is pure ramp. No combo Druid. But we will have to see. So, this play is fairly obvious. You just clear out as much as you can. The Sea Giant, however, another juggler. The Sea Giant is going to cause some problems. I mean, if I was playing the Warlock here, I'd be getting a little worried about dying. So I think I'd probably kill the 5/5. Going to the face once again. Oh, that's lethal. You play the Druid of the Claw and then Hero Power. That is lethal. Wait, are we actually going to see a miss lethal? No, that's taunt. Miss lethal on Raven's part here. Basically, could have played the Druid of the Claw in charge and then hero powered and killed. Alright, there's the second Doom Guard. Without discard a second time, obviously. And that's a big clear. And then, if Raven loses this game because of Miss Lethal, that is hilarious. I don't think this is even enough at this point. I mean, you just play Ysera here and then trade the 5/5 into the 8/4. I think Ysera is the best play here. You could also, I mean, you could Ancient Allure to heal yourself and then Hero Power the 2/1. But you can't do either if you Wild Growth. I think I would play the Ysera here and then just take 8 damage off the board, leave it with 7. Because there isn't a top deck that is possible at that point that can kill you. I don't know. This seems overly safe. Yeah, this really does seem overly safe. Unless there's an Alexstrasza in here that I'm not aware of. Power Overwhelming, you say? That's a lot of damage. I don't think you Power Overwhelming here. I think you just play the Haunted Creeper and then hit the face with the Doom Guard. Because otherwise this Doom Guard is going to trade with this 5/5. And that's what you want. While getting in 5 damage, I mean. So I think you just pass the turn here. Well, I mean you attack and then pass. I really don't agree with playing Power Overwhelming here. I think it's a bit of a needless waste of 4 damage. I mean, it's not wasting 4 damage, but it's... Oh, never mind. Didn't matter. That is the Ancient of Wall. That's what I call Ancient of War. It is the Ancient of Wall himself. What happens when a zoo faces an Ancient of War? The answer does not get through it. It just... No way. And there's the concede. Icegirl knew there was absolutely nothing left in the deck that could possibly even kill an Ancient of War. There was basically nothing left that could harm it at that point, so just concede out of the game. That game was a lot closer than I think it should have been, obviously because of the Miss Lethal, but yeah, I think that pretty much sums up what Ramp is like against Zoo. I mean, that game went better than normal for the Zoo deck there because there's double Sea Giant, so there's a lot more heavy hitters in that particular matchup. I mean, the 0-cost Sea Giant was insane, but then on the Druid side of things, double Mind Control tech was pretty good. Mind Control teching the Undertaker may have won him the game. I think that may have won him the game there. But anyway, so on to game number 3, as the series is tied up 1-1, and now there's a Paladin. Raven started with Paladin, and now Icegirl is going to try and beat him with Paladin. As far as opening hands goes, pretty decent curve here for Icegirl. And there's a Wild Growth. Ooh. Coin Innervate is not Yeti, but it is a Sen'jin. I think you Wild Growth on turn 2 as the Druid, and then you can go Sludge Belcher turn 4. That works. Yeah, you definitely Wild Growth here. What? No, you definitely Wild Growth here. What? That was weird. Okay, realized. Yeah, natural mistake. Wait, no, that was a mistake twice. Should have attacked the Loot Hoarder before the Zombie Chow. That was a turn of mistakes. As opposed to a ton of mistakes, a turn of mistakes. Yeah, you want to use the True Silver to clear this, so making the 1/1's fine. Alright, you definitely Wild Growth here. No! 2 in a row! Wow, that's pretty messed up. Yeah. I think that was really badly played, to be honest. Yeah, should have Wild Growth there. Should have Wild Growth on turn 2, arguably. And even on turn 3, if you knew you had no 3-drop, Wild Growthing on turn 3 is fine over turn 2. But not Wild Growthing at all is just sloppy play. That just is. And you play out the Zombie Chow here because you want to bait a True Silver hit. Which, I mean, to be fair, it's going to bait out a True Silver hit because what else are you gonna hit it with? Let's be honest here. So yeah, this is gonna get Truce over it, I should imagine. I mean, there is an argument for being super patient, but you don't know if your opponent's playing Harrison. Well, I mean, obviously they don't have it in their hand because they would have just played it, but could top deck it. Now, Druid of the Claw is the better anti-Sludge Belcher card. Much better. If you're playing as Loatheb, you want to be playing Druid of the Claw instead of Sludge Belcher. The Loatheb completely, it chews down on the Sludge Belcher. Doesn't even trade. He's going to have to hero power this thing. And then there's a Slam Sylvanas into Boom. That's one hell of a curve. I mean, I think we're just going to see... Actually, this is really awkward. I think it was a mistake not playing the Druid of the Claw last turn. I think it was a really big mistake. What do you play this turn? That's the good question. I mean, you can play Druid of the Claw and charge, take out the 5/5, and then play a Zombie Chow? Okay, now I'm just confused. This is not that safe. I mean, trying to go head to head with Sylvanas is always risky, but this is even more risky. Now, there's a couple of plays here. I think the best one is probably just Boom. Boom is usually the good play on curve. Going for the cutesy play here, I'm not sure if I agree with it. This is going for the Knife Juggler machine gun round to try and kill this 4/6. I think playing the Boom is probably just better. Not by much, but I think it is. You get a 7/7 and 2 1/1s, and even though there's a bear on the other side, it's not as relevant when you've got a massive board. And that was a bit risky as well. But then there's a top deck big game hunter just to say, hey Jotto, you're wrong. But no, it's... Well, what's this MC tech gonna get? If this gets Sylvanas, then that's gonna be absolutely brutal. What is this gonna get? I think you definitely play the MC tech here. You're not gonna get a better opportunity. And then you can like hero power the 5/1. Silverhand Recruit. Alright, you play the Chow and then... Actually, do you play the Chow? Yeah, you do play the Chow. And then you hero power the 5/1, see what it gets back. What's this gonna roll? Silverhand Recruit, get back here. So, the MC tech and the Sylvanas completely cancelled each other out. That's kind of amusing. I think you just play Boom here. I don't see why not. Well, you're going to play Truce over if you're going to do it that way. What is it with playing badly around Zombie Chows? You always attack first before you kill Zombie Chow. Why? Because it heals you back up. Always do your attack first before killing Zombie Chow. Unless you're going to die, then don't attack first before killing Zombie Chow. This Ancient of War is not the wall that is not going to fall. It is actually going to fall. Oh, wow. Equality into Boom. That is brutal beyond belief. That's an insane top deck. I mean, it could have been dealt with, but that's brutal. Attacking with the Truce over here is... It's okay. It does mean that any weapons you get off the top of the deck do a bit of extra. It also means that it's not vulnerable to weapon removal. But then on the other side of things, you may want to be a bit more conservative with your Truce over. So there's some debate to be had. Now let's see what these Boom bots do. Is the Boom RNG with you and the Rag RNG? The Ragnaros could be lethal here. 4. Alright, let's see what this other one does. Rubbing salt in the wound at this point. 4. Almost lethal with boom bots. That's insane. Taking him to 1. The 50-50 to live, and I have no idea what you can possibly top deck to win at this point, or even to survive. That's best possible top deck, and it's not enough. That heals for 5 so that he lives 1 turn, but then he's going to die to a 5-5 Silverhand recruit. As we see, Quartermaster obviously showing how good it is by buffing 1 Silverhand recruit. Double Quartermasters to end the series, as Icegirl takes the series 2-1 against Raven from Team Infused. But anyway, so out of the 3 games, the first game was a lot about sort of ramp druid against Zoo. There's a couple interesting techs in that. I mean, not first game, the second game was like that. The first game, Paladin versus Zoo, was pretty much as it always goes, which is the Paladin was just about to stabilize and couldn't quite do it and just died. The second game was a lot about the ramp druid slowing down the Zoo rush as much as possible, and the mind control techs really helped that game out. There was a lot of RNG showing up in that game, quite frankly, but the Ancient of Wars were just too much in the end to handle. Now, as for the last game, it was fairly interesting, to say the least, and it did come down to the Paladin curving out a bit better and just having more powerful things to play, and also that wild growth being missed was quite brutal. I mean, if you think about it, if that Belcher had been down, or that Druid of Claw had been down before the lower third got played, I think that game may have gone slightly different. I don't know if it would have changed completely, but the game would have changed slightly, and that's sometimes worth more than you'd think. But anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. But as for now, this has been Jotto, signing off.